Good morning. This is TJ Knight, Assistant Executive Officer for the Board of Public Works. And I am facilitating today's meeting, and I do see some attendees in the queue for the meeting. Hopefully you can hear me. I see Mr. Charles Kemp and Mr. Colin Muir, and we should get started in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And once I call roll and establish a quorum, I will invite Mr. Kemp and Mr. Muir to become panelists so that you can offer input on today's special agenda. So just stand by and we should get started. I see that our commissioners have not yet joined, but they should be joining shortly. And once we do have all of our commissioners on the meeting, I will call roll, establish quorum, and we'll get the meeting started, and then I'll invite you to join as panelists. And you don't have to offer input, but our commissioners may have questions. Our presenter, Erica Blather, may introduce you to, as well as one other gentleman. Okay, thank you. Good morning again. This is TJ Knight. This is an executive officer for the Board of Public Works. Hopefully the other participants and attendees can hear me. I do see our commissioners joining. I see good morning, President Garcia. I see President Pro Tem Davis, and I see Commissioner Corsand in the room. And of course, our petroleum administrator who is here to present on today's special agenda item number 1. I see, so we are awaiting being joined by our 2 other commissioners, VP Vice President Villegas and Commissioner Reyes. And I do see it.
Commissioner Reyes is here.
Oh, I apologize. I'm so sorry, Commissioner Reyes. I see you. I don't see you on my attendee list, so I apologize. Can you just say?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep talking. I just need to identify which you are. Are you are?
I joined as a panelist.
Okay. Okay. Got you. I see you. Sorry about that, Commissioner Reyes. My apologies. It's still early here. So.
Yeah.
For our attendees, I do see the 3 contractors who are in queue as attendees. And once we establish quorum, take roll and establish quorum, and our staff, Erica Plyther presents, I will ask you to join as panelists so that you can respond to questions or offer commentary. I do also see some other members of the public joining us. If you could raise your hand, I see a calling user and Mr. Flessner and Mr. Cheek. If you could please raise your hand at this time so I can note if you would like to offer commentary, public commentary or commentary on item number 1 for our special agenda. Mr. Flessner, I'm so sorry. Please let me know if you would like to offer commentary. Star 9 to unmute.
I'm a representative of Baker O'Brien, one of the contractors.
Oh, got it. Okay. Let me just make a note. And so, as I stated, the contractor representatives will be promoted to panel. Will be offered the opportunity to promote to panelists once the staff presentation starts. Thank you, Mr. Flessner, for identifying yourself. Is there anyone else? I do have in my notes that Mr. Chilakapati, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, Mr. Kemp and Mr. Muir are all contractor representatives. So I have you down in my notes already. If there is anyone else who is a contractor representative or a member of the public who wishes to offer commentary on our special agenda item number 1 or public commentary, please raise your hand at this time so I can make a note of it in my notes. Is there anyone who wishes to offer public commentary at this time? I see another caller having just joined us. If you would like to identify yourself and offer public commentary or commentary on item number 1 for our special agenda, I'll make a note of it. If you would raise your hand, star 6 to raise your hand, star 9 to unmute. Seeing no one identifying themselves, I am going to go back to our list, and I will, let me see. I will begin to spotlight folks. Good morning, Commissioner, President Pro Tem Davis. I'm going to start spotlighting people.
Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Corsand, I'm going to ask you to start video. And I see that our president may have dropped off. We will await President Garcia and Vice President Villegas. We should get started in the next few minutes. Good morning, Commissioner Corsand.
Morning.
Thank you.
Oh, 213-974-2222.
Calling now.
Once again, TJ Knight, Assistant Executive Officer for the Board of Public Works, and to our participants and our commissioners, apologize for the short delay. We are awaiting being joined by our President and Vice President. Once our President and VP have joined, we will go ahead and start the meeting. We'll take roll and establish quorum, and then we can begin the special agenda. I'll do one more call for anyone in our attendees who is here to offer public commentary or commentary on agenda item number 1. If you would kindly raise your hand, and then I will ask you to unmute. Mr. Roman, if you please press *9 to unmute. Star 6 to unmute. Sorry about that. Mr. Roman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good morning. I'm Eric Roman from Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles in the Stand LA Coalition. I had some trouble connecting to the meeting, but I'm glad I succeeded. I am calling in today on behalf of Stand to say we're eager to see this contract approved and for these studies to commence.
Let me interrupt you. I apologize, Mr. Roman. I'm glad you were able to connect. I apologize for the difficulty you had in joining, but I'm just at this time identifying attendees to make a public comment. So I appreciate your comment, but if you would please hold off until
I'll hold it until when you're ready. No problem.
Excellent, excellent. And so you're here for the special agenda item number 1.
That's correct.
The oil well amortization. Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Rosenlieb, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Are you here to offer commentary on agenda item number 1 for our special agenda?
Yes, I am, and no problem on the pronunciation. Rosenlieb is how it is pronounced. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Rosenlieb. I've noted that you're here to make commentary on item number 1. And just informationally for those folks who are here to make commentary on item number 1, you'll have 2 minutes when the president brings up item number 1 to offer commentary. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so is there anyone else at this time who would like to offer public commentary or commentary on item number 1 for our special agenda? I'll make a note of your name for the record, and we can call on you when that item is called or when public commentary is called. If so, would you please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no hands, no further hands raised. I have the 2 gentlemen, Mr. Rosenlieb and Mr. Roman. All right, very good. Let me go back into the meeting, and we are still awaiting arrival of our President, Vice President, and City Attorney representative. So please stand by. Good morning again. This is TJ Knight, Assistant Executive Officer for the Board of Public Works site. I'm just chiming in to our commissioners and to our attendees. And I'd like to apologize on behalf of President Garcia and Vice President Villegas and City Attorney Representative Mr. Jordan. We are running a little bit late, obviously, and we are getting our our quorum established. So please just bear with us, and we should get going here in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My apologies for being late. I'm just getting the agenda item together. TJ, is Ted here? I just sent him a text too.
Good morning, President Garcia. I do not see our City Attorney Representative, Mr. Ted Jordan, in the attendee list, and he is not in the panelist list this time.
Okay, let me. He said he was running late. He's gonna log in as soon as he can.
All right. I see Mr. Jordan has joined us, and I am asking him, and here he is. Very good.
Thank
Good
you.
morning, Mr.
Sorry, I'm late.
Good morning, Mr. Jordan.
Oh, my camera's off. I'll turn that on.
Okay, Teresa's supposed to log in, but we can, let me see.
She is joining us as we speak. Excellent.
Perfect. Okay, no more texting her then. All right. Sorry about that rough start, you guys. I myself had forgotten and thinking I still had a few more minutes here. Okay. All right, TJ, you tell me when we're ready to start. I think we have everyone here.
Yes, we are ready to go.
Oh, okay. We're ready on the console audio and recording.
Oh, let me actually, let me double, I'm sorry. Let me make sure that that is going as well. Give me just one
Okay.
second.
Okay.
Yes, council audio is on. I have confirmation. President Garcia, we are now recording. And you're on mute.
Of course. It's a rough start, you guys. Okay, here we go. Let's attempt number 5.
Right.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting for the Board of Public Works for Friday, December 2nd, 2022. TJ?
Yes, good morning, Madam President Garcia. TJ Knight, Assistant Executive Officer, taking role in establishing quorum for the special meeting for December 2nd. President Garcia, Vice President Villegas, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioner Corson, and Commissioner Reyes are present, and we do have a quorum. We are also joined by City Attorney Representative Mr. Jordan. Again, I'm Assistant Executive Officer TJ Knight. President Garcia, this morning we have on our special agenda, we have 2 Google form comments that have been distributed to commissioners, and we have 2 commentaries on agenda item number 1 who are present on the Zoom call.
Okay. Are they under public comment?
They are on agenda item number 1,
Okay, no problem.
both of them.
Public comment for the agenda meeting is officially now closed. Moving on to item number 1. This is from our executive office, a personal service contracts to Alvarez and Marceau Public Sector Services, LLC, Baker and O'Brien, Inc., CJM Petroleum Consulting, Inc., amortization study. I'll read it into the record and then I'll take a public comment after that. And then Erica, you can begin your presentation. Recommending the board, subject to approval by the mayor, to approve recommendation number 1, approve the proposed personal service contract between the City of Los Angeles and Alvarez and Marshall Public Sector Services, LLC, A&M, for a term of 3 years at cost not to exceed $250,000 to conduct research and analysis to determine and amortization periods for oil production facilities and existing wells in the city of Los Angeles. Okay. 2, approve the proposed personal service contract between the city of Los Angeles and Baker O'Brien, Inc. for a term of 3 years at a cost not to exceed $2,224,750 to conduct research and analysis to determine an amortization periods for oil protection facilities and existing wells in the city of Los Angeles. 3, approve the proposed personal services contract between the city of Los Angeles and CJM Petroleum Consulting for a term of 3 years at a cost not to exceed $594,600 to conduct research and analysis to determine an amortization period for oil production facilities and existing wells in the city of Los Angeles. 4, authorize the president of the Board of Public Works or 2 commissioners of the board to execute the proposed personal services contract between the city and A&M Baker and O'Brien and CJMPC, subject to the approval of the city attorney. Geez, that was hard. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. TJ, we can take public comment now.
Very good. We will begin with Mr. Eric Roman. And let me here you go. You have 2 minutes, Mr. Roman, to offer your comment.
Great. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Eric Roman. I'm with the Stand LA Coalition, Standing Together Against Neighborhood Drilling. We are the coalition that has been organizing in communities impacted by oil drilling and with LA City government for many years now to move forward this multi-part policy and process to completely phase out oil drilling in Los Angeles. So we are excited to get to the point of having these contracts approved and for these studies to get underway. We would, as we've said before, would like to see these studies finished as soon as possible so that we can get onto the business of actually shutting down oil wells. We understand these studies are prerequisite for that. Obviously contingent upon potential action by the city council this morning on advancing an ordinance to declare oil drilling non-conforming land use. We had only appreciate Ms. Blyther sharing the contracts with us. Didn't have a lot of time to review them carefully since I know they're voluminous. So a couple of 3 questions, which I'm also happy to follow up with Ms. Blyther about. The first, with regard to mentioning contracts of quote unquote economic life expectancy based on engineering based reserve life. So this is an issue that we discussed with Ms. Blyther previously. In short, Stand LA, we don't think that these studies should take and consider the value of projected oil reserves as a basis for determining the appropriate amortization study, as opposed to analysis of recouping of past investments. So that's an important thing to note. We'd like some clarity on what exactly that phrase that I referenced, economic life expectancy based on engineering-based reserve life means in light of that. And there's a letter that we sent to, is my time up?
Yes, your time is up. If you want to quickly mention your other 2 questions.
Sure. So the other questions are more straightforward. One is, what is the projected timeline for initiating, completing the citywide amortization study, understanding there are 3 contracts? That's the second question. Number 3 is regarding equity factors. How will these factors be implemented? Are they simply to prioritize where the study begins and where they will shorten the actual, or will they actually shorten the phase out timeline? Is the study purely economic, or is equity integrated into the findings of the study itself? Those are the 3 questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Our next commentary for agenda item number 1 is Mr. Trent Rosenleed.
Thank you very much for the opportunity this morning. My name's Trent Rosenleed, and I'm representing the California Independent Petroleum Association. Just as a very brief background, I'm a petroleum engineer by education. practicing in California for over 40 years. I'm also a registered professional petroleum engineer in California. As the Department of Public Works is considering contracting with the groups this morning, I offer further consideration as the groups have little to no experience in evaluating upstream oil and gas operations. And the information that I'm talking about has been gleaned from the respective websites from the companies. One of the firms that was involved in the Culver City amortization study generated a report that's burdened with poor assumptions, inaccurate economics, and is currently involved in a legal challenge. Second group appears to be focused solely on management of various operations, does not appear to have any petroleum background at all. The third is a petroleum engineer with less than 10 years of California experience. And it's confusing from looking at information on the web that the individual has his own consulting company, but at the same time is listed as being an employee of another consulting company. I urge caution to the city if a contract is to be let, that they know who they are contracting with. Also, I just want to mention that as stated in a letter to the Los Angeles City Council dated November 22nd from the law firm of Manat, Phelps and Phillips, who are the attorneys representing SIPA, this action will constitute an unlawful takings of private property, regardless of an amortization period. Okay, just 1 second, please. All I want to add to it is SIPA strongly urges Department of Public Works to reject all contracts and opposes the takings of the private property. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenleid. I do see a new hand raised, and a user named CT Williams. If you would please identify yourself, if you would like to offer commentary on agenda item 1 for our special agenda this morning.
I would like to speak on item general public comment 1, 3, 5, and you started before 10 o'clock and you did not ask for any general public comments.
Dr. Williams, we have a special agenda.
You started before 10 at 9:57, and you did not ask for or recognize that I had raised my hand for general public comment.
Dr. Williams, go ahead, TJ.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, President Garcia. Dr. Williams, we have a special agenda that we are on right now. The agenda was released
at
at
for the
9:30.
special agenda.
Okay, we have one item on our special
might
agenda.
check with
We've closed
Jordan
public
as to
commentary.
whether
If you would
there's,
like to offer your commentary on our agenda item 1, you can go ahead. Start now. You have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for Safe Community. And we started with Culver City in 2006 because of bad drilling operators. The real issue here for amortization is the owner of the oil reserves and how you're going to impact upon the owners, not just the operators. The operators operate much like a gasoline station. They put in facilities, they make improvements, but ultimately the responsibility is to the owner, which may be the operator, but often is not, especially in this Los Angeles City. So I'd highly recommend that the amortization involve all of the owners, which the county assessor has records of for the last 100 years, and involve them too, because they are ultimately responsible for bad wells. And there have been a lot of bad wells and a lot of bad operators. And I was at the Ross Dress for Less store in 1985 for 3 days while the gas was blowing out of a badly abandoned well. I've also started my oil career in 1958 when spending 2 months on an oil rig in eastern Kansas convinced me to go to college and get a degree. So get it done. Coordinate with the people in Culver City because their amortization of 60 wells there is going and has been going for almost a year. So thank you very much. And I thought the special would come at 9:30,
Thank you, Dr.
but
Williams.
anyway.
And
Thank
President Garcia. President Garcia, that concludes commentary on agenda item number 1 for our special agenda.
Thank you, TJ. Public comment for item number 1 is now officially closed. City Attorney Ted Jordan, is there any clarification that we need to make?
Well, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So as to the concerns that Dr. Williams raised, as I think he acknowledged, we had a special meeting agendized for 9:30 this morning, and due to a variety of technical and scheduling issues, including my own being late for the meeting, we weren't able to get that meeting started promptly at 9:30, which was, our goal. So we got started a little bit late, before 10 o'clock, but that's okay because this is the special meeting agendized for 9:30. At the conclusion of this meeting, we will adjourn it, and then we will start our regular meeting. Of course, it will be get off to a little bit of a late start as well. Dr. Williams indicated he wanted to make a general public comment. His comment really seemed to be more directed at item number 1, which is fine. As a courtesy, we do allow general public comment in the special meeting. It's shown on our agenda. However, under the Brown Act, when bodies have a special meeting compared to a regular meeting, we're not actually required to take general public comment. General public comment is something reserved for regular meetings, but we have it on our agenda here, so we do allow it. Although in this case, it sounded like Dr. Williams had a comment only on item number 1. I would, since he's here, invite him if he wants to make a general public comment. He may do so in the regular meeting, which we will start as soon as this meeting is adjourned. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of a clarification. Today's a slightly unusual procedural posture for us since we have these 2 meetings, one of which got off to a bit of a late start.
Thank you, Ted, for that clarification. I think it was needed. So thank you so much. We have a couple people in our public hearing, and so I just want to make sure that there's a difference and they know that today's a little unusual, not the same as every other Friday that we have. With that said, thank you very much for the clarification, and thank you very much to public comment as well. I'll now pass this over to Erica Blyther, our City Petroleum Administrator. Erica, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you, honorable commissioners, for making time for this meeting today, and I really appreciate your flexibility. Council File 170447 tasked the Office of Petroleum, Natural Gas Administration and Safety with hiring experts to conduct an amortization period study for existing wells in the city of Los Angeles. The amortization study determines the time required for oil revenues to offset oil drilling and production expenses, including a return on investment. The results of this study will be used to inform policy. In your packets, you have the board report, the proposed contract with Alvarez and Marcel, the proposed contract with Baker and O'Brien, and the proposed contract with CJM Petroleum. And there's a slight mistake, and I believe that was attached twice. But for the clarity, just for the sake of clarity, there are actually 3 separate contracts proposed. As this work is highly specialized, there is also the Business Inclusion Program waiver from the Mayor's Office. And what will hopefully be very useful is a frequently asked questions document. The board report covers the background of oil development in the Los Angeles region and provides an overview of what has been happening at the state and local levels related to oil and non-conforming land use. There's a detailed description of what is happening at the state level, the public health rulemaking, as well as Senate Bill 1137. And that's due to one of the instructions attached to 170447 to ensure that the city is not duplicating state rulemaking efforts. There's also a description of what is occurring in neighboring Los Angeles County and Culver City. The board report then focuses on what was happening within the city of Los Angeles, primarily the efforts of the Department of City Planning to prepare an ordinance to prohibit new oil and gas extraction and make extraction activities in non-conforming land use. That ordinance is scheduled to be heard today, December 2nd, at the Los Angeles City Council for its first reading. I'd like to present a slideshow providing an overview of the proposed amortization study. The Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration Safety is working with the Department of City Planning And we selected all three bidders as their combined approaches meet the city's needs and schedule without exceeding the project budget. Available on Zoom are representatives from the three proposed contractors, Shandu from the managing director of Alvarez and Marcel, Charles Kemp, the vice president of Baker and O'Brien, and Colin Muir, the president of CJM Petroleum Consulting Incorporated. They're available for questions. And now I'm going to attempt to do a presentation. So let's see. Oh, okay, it's been disabled for me. If you could please allow me to share a presentation.
Sure, TJ can give you co-host access. TJ?
Yes, thank you, President Garcia, and thank you, Erica, for bearing with me. I've just asked you to accept co-host responsibilities so you can share your screen.
Oh, yes, okay, thank you. And let's see. Okay. Can everyone see my slideshow? Yes, I think I see some nods. Yes, okay,
Yes,
great.
yes, we
Wonderful.
can see it.
Thank you. So I'm going to go through this background pretty briefly. Hopefully this is not new news, but the city has 26 oil and gas fields that intersect city boundaries. There's 16 active or idle drill sites across the city. So sometimes you're going to see the number 16, sometimes 17. And late last year, the oil drill site Jefferson was abandoned. So that's the 17th drill site, but now there are currently 16 active and idle drill sites. Of these, there are approximately 5,274 oil and gas wells, 704 active, 1,335 idle, about 3,000 plugged, and some others. And this is based on April 2021 data from CalGEM, the State Department of Geologic Energy Management. Again, this is the background showing where these wells are specifically located. Quite a few in Council District 15, also some in Council District 5, and they're scattered throughout the city. But basically, every part of the city has some level of oil and gas in it. This is location of some of the drill sites. Again, they're following the oil fields. So the Las Ciénegas oil field is very active, downtown oil field, and there's several others. This is not showing the oil field that's in the Wilmington area, but that's also a very active oil field. These are the actual drill sites. And what's important to note of the drill sites, about 67% of the wells are found within the drill sites. The other percentage are outside of drill sites. So there are many wells that will be analyzed throughout this study, not just the ones in the drill sites. And as I mentioned, this is the 17. One of them is Jefferson, which is recently abandoned. These are the operators for the drill sites. What's important to note, and this was mentioned in one of the public comments, is that there's the issue of equity. So in looking at the CalEnviro score screens, you can see that a number of these drill sites are in areas that are highly impacted, that have the highest CalEnviro score screens. And it would be, the pollution burden is very high for these, as well as population characteristics. So all this will be considered as we begin the study. So specifically for the scope of work, in January of 26, Los Angeles City Council instructed the office to conduct this study, and there's a budget of $3.5 million. The Board of Public Works approved the RFP release on April 8th, and we released the RFP on April 12th with the deadline of May 10th. Proposals from 3 qualifying bidders were reviewed and interviews were conducted. The unique approaches exemplify several possible ways to approach the study. The Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration Safety, working with the Department of City Planning, selected all 3 bidders as their combined approaches meet the city's needs and schedule. We are hopeful of awarding the contracts in December to initiate the study immediately following the award. And most of the deliverables include having draft reports, PowerPoint presentations, and those will be available for comment by city staff. We've also been tasked by the Energy, Climate Change, Environmental Justice Committee to do quarterly reports. So we will be able to provide that information to any agencies that are interested in that, to the public, to see what the progress is going on with related to this study. I'm going to go through each of the proposals and contracts or proposed contracts. So the first one is Alvarez and Marcel, and they're using an income approach to determine the appropriate amortization period, including economic life expectancy based on engineering-based reserve life, forward market prices, asset retirement costs, and royalty overrides, regulatory requirements, and operating expenses. This approach will consider various scenarios, including drilling costs, regulatory and environmental costs, and asset retirement costs. So the timeline for this study, and it will be for the entirety of the city, is 4 months. This is the schedule that's proposed. And what makes this approach unique is that it's kind of a sweeping panoramic overview of modeling. And the contractor has extensive experience working with public and private sectors, primarily in Texas, but they also have some Los Angeles City experience. They worked for the city doing the SoCalGas franchise evaluation, enabling the 2022 franchise agreement. It's a fixed cost of $250,000. There'll be half the amount invoiced at the draft report and the other half at the successful completion of all the meetings. The next proposal is Baker and O'Brien, and they propose a series of studies that will begin with a pilot project, and it will include highest priority wells as determined, and those when we're going to be looking at these equity factors. And the expected time frame for the entirety of the project is going to be 18 months. Part A will be 5 months for the pilot, Part B will be 6 months, Part C will be 7 months. And each of these studies would involve about approximately 60 to 100 wells. Pilot studies about 40 wells. Studies 2 through 5 will be 60 to 100 wells each. And Part C, same things, 60 to 100 wells each. And this whole process will be to understand in a very granular detail level what's happening with each of these wells. And this is the timeline, and there'll be separate notices to proceed issued for each of these. And the total amount will be $2.2 million. And this will be a really in-depth and extensive well-by-well analysis, and a litigation-ready document will be prepared. And it is important to note that this is the company that performed recently with Culver City and their amortization study, and they actually have one of the experts who worked for Culver City on the team, so it's a very local area expert who was on part of the team. The next contract is CJM Petroleum Consulting, and they're going to do a similar approach to Baker and O'Brien with a pilot study, and they're also going to do an iterative approach to complete the full scope. They have experience in data automation, and as mentioned, there's a petroleum engineer who works there. And the expected time frame for the entirety of the process would be 18 months, a pilot study of 5 months, full-scale evaluation of 8 months, and then digitization of pre-1977 data at 5 months. And what's important to note is all this data is coming from CalGEM, the state department or state agency control that's in charge of oil and gas. But some of this data is pictures that can't really be archived. You can't actually use the data for things. So it's actually going through looking at the data, if it's maps, if it's well dates when they were established, looking at that data and making it usable, putting it in a spreadsheet, making sure this is actually a project or data that can be used for creating reports and documents. And this is their timeline, duration. And what's also unique about this approach is that there's going to be a visualization dashboard completed. And this is going to be, it's going to be an SQL database with Power BI, and it's going to allow the city to have critical variable inputs. And this can be used for the city in various ways. And so our planning team was interested in using this for a lot of public outreach and engagement. So it'll be useful for seeing how the amortization is occurring and what types of data inputs are there. So the pilot cost is $143,000, cost for digitization $153,000, remaining well study $256,000. And there's also going to be a 3-year license agreement for this dashboard. And it's important to note that this is also the approach that LA County recently went with on their amortization study. And this dashboard is a working model, and I don't know if I have time to show you all right now, but this is a link that you can click on, and you can see, and as you actually go around and scroll through these, you can see various things such as total production, daily production, well type, how much things are produced, if it's how much natural gas is produced, how much oil is produced, all of this. And so this is a model that anyone can go through and see. And this will be, as the study continues, more data will be added to it to make it more usable and capture more items. In conclusion, the various study approaches and dynamic visualization tools will aid tracking, analysis, and public engagement. The Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration Safety has worked with Department of City Planning and selected all 3 bidders as their combined approaches meet the city's needs and schedule without exceeding the project budget. The benefit of having 3 contractors is that this approach enables the city to view the solution from multiple lenses. It also provides the city with flexibility. There's value in comparing different approaches. The combined findings, conclusions, and recommendations will offer a comprehensive perspective for the development of future policy. And it's important to note there's probably no one time period for each well, but it's more kind of refining that confidence interval of when someone has recouped their investment. So the more data inputs that are put in, there's a better chance of really narrowing down that confidence interval of when these wells have actually achieved amortization. And this is a review of the budget. You can see the timeline. And so that was a question that came up, is what is the timeline? So we will actually have a lot of data at the end of 5 months. One study will be completed at 4 months. The others will have their pilots complete at 5 months. And so the full projects should be complete in 18 months for all of these. But the contracts are for a term of 3 years. So we'll have time to go through and do some comparison of things. And there's a contingency budget of about $430,000. And this remaining contingency could be used if we have any issues with the data, if there's any need to do anything, any costs for example, more in-person meetings, as that's happening, as we're moving back to more in-person meetings, we might need to have more travel expenses, et cetera. So all of that is going to be possible for the contingency. And again, I mentioned we are going to have quarterly reports to the public and to city council or anyone who's interested in what's happening with the amortization study. And that's about all I have. I can stop sharing. And if there are other questions, as I mentioned, our contractors are on the line. And I just wanted to offer thanks to everyone. So there's a lot of people involved in this. It's truly a group effort to do this. And none of this would have been possible alone. So many individuals in the city family helped me with this. So a lot of people had to pivot to make it happen. I definitely want to thank Calvin Joe and CAO Risk Management, Miguel de la Pena in Accounting, the Board of Public Works admin staff, Fernando, TJ, Cairo, Lamisha, and Anna, City Attorney's Office, especially Ted Jordan, Sneedy Segari, and Jennifer Tompkin, Department of City Planning, especially Ed Lillian, who helped with all the evaluations and interviews, and working so cohesively on all these aspects, including GIS mapping assistance. Devon, who kicked this project off, and my staff, especially Amanda, who was the real lead on this. And she now on maternity leave, she gave me permission to share this. So she had her baby 10 weeks early. And so this was a huge, huge switch that was not expected. And so she's doing well. I got a chance to talk to her this morning. She's doing well, baby's doing well, and she's visiting him regularly. And so, yeah, his name Dominic. And so she's going to hope to share pictures with us. But just to say, there's been a lot of people who've had to juggle a lot of tasks to make this happen. I really appreciate all of that. Renee has also been really helpful with everything, including she's been invaluable actually with the frequently asked questions and proofreading. And the mayor's office has always been there. And I definitely want to thank Stand LA because of their stalwart and unwavering focus and making this a priority for the city, the Sierra Club, and many, many council members and staff who recognize this as a priority and had the foresight to secure the funding needed to perform these studies. And again, I and other representatives for the contractors are available for questions.
Thank you so much, Erica, for your presentation and your in the power, the show you showed us that was really helpful. Colleagues, any questions for Erica on any of what you have heard this morning? Vice President Villegas?
Thank you. I appreciate your report. Erica, you're always so thorough. And this has been a long time coming, for the last year. There's been a lot of, items discussed also at City Council about this. And so, just the issuing of the RFP and everything going through our board as well. And thanks for itemizing the tasks for all three personal services contracts for the businesses. I'm curious, how much interaction will all three of these businesses have as they're gathering information? How much information sharing will there be? And then my other question is just on as information is being, gathered, what will be, shared just on our public website, and then just third question is just on outreach. It seems like Baker and O'Brien are doing some of that, and I just wanted to see if you could just characterize a little bit of if they're going to solicit for feedback from the public.
Right. So the interaction was something we didn't want to have a lot of cross-pollination, I guess, between the different approaches. There might be some times where we do want to compare data, but we kind of wanted everyone to run their own study. And then at the end, maybe compare notes and see if there's some things that were found. But the idea was it wasn't going to be everybody working on this together specifically. There might be some occasions where that's useful, but that wasn't the whole idea behind this. Related to what's on the website, we need a website for one thing. So that's another project that I need to work on, is getting a website for my office. And so that's something else that we're going to be kicking off fairly soon. But we do plan to have frequently asked questions and these types of updates. And so someone could see all these approaches and this type of information. We can put our frequently asked questions on the website at this point and its current state, but we are planning to do regular updates. That's a place where the quarterly updates could live on that website. And so that's something that we want to make sure that's available to the public. As far as outreach, that is something we are going to be working with as we select sites. Our idea was to prioritize the areas with the highest Cal Environmental score screens to start, but the plan is ultimately to look at, in some approaches, every well in the city. So we will start with those, but we're going to look at all the wells.
Okay. All right. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Dr. Davis.
Yes, I wanted to ask, now this scope of this study deals with the existing wells in the LA City territory, and it deals basically in terms of the assessment of issues and roles and responsibilities of the wells as it relates to both operators, as well as are there some objectives that will be probing in terms of the accountability of owners of the wells as well. Is that?
This is really going to be a focus on the return on investment. There are other aspects of Council File 170447, which are looking at remediation and the types of cleanup and things that are going to be involved. So that is something else that's been tasked to my office, but that's not what's currently part of this contract. It's more on the return on investment. But we are going to look at all the costs related to operating these wells, including and sometimes projected cleanups.
What would you say our overall goal of the multiple studies is in our commissioning each of the various vendors or contractors, if you will, to do the study? What is our goal?
Well, our goal is to really look at the project from many different lenses. It's not to only have one focus. And so the idea, Culver City used one contractor, and that was one approach. There are other approaches which may also yield valuable data. And the overall idea is, again, it's like if you calculate something, you get a number, you do it a second time, you have to do it a third time just to see what that number really is. And so the idea is, again, trying to narrow that confidence interval so we understand what the range of amortization time periods is. But it's just to make sure we're looking at all the different lenses and trying to understand all the possible ways of viewing this information so that we get the best approach possible for the city.
Is also our objective to assess the efficiency and the effectiveness of those wells that we are examining?
We will look at what is the expected lifespan of the wells. That is something that we're looking at, not necessarily in terms of contamination and are they leaking, but what is the expected life and lifespan of the wells.
Is our objective then in our assessment of that to help make a determination as to how long these operations will need to exist and to assess those that may be able to give us a definite time of operation to be able to decide how we're able to manage the failure, or not the failure, but to be able to manage the status of that particular well. So for example, if we go in and make an assessment of one well and determine that next year its operation will have been subsided, that we would then have that data and information so that we can better manage our profile, if you will, from the existing 16 to 15. Are those the kinds of assessments that we're looking for in this amortization? In other words, assessing the efficiency, assessing the effectiveness, and determining additionally how long these are going to be operating so that we can better manage our profile or our footprint, as you call it.
The lifespan is definitely something that we'll look at. So yes, so the ordinance that's moving through the city council process currently has a 20-year time frame for amortization. And so Culver City ended up with a 5-year. They're very different cities, but the process was for Culver City, the determination was made that they've already recouped their investment. And the 5 years was meant just to leave time for cleaning up and removing the equipment. So that was the determination of that study. For Los Angeles, it might be that some of these wells are still very profitable for a very long time. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. But currently, as it's scheduled, if this ordinance goes through, all wells are supposed to cease operations within 20-year time frame. So
Got
this
it.
would be narrowing that focus by getting the data.
I
and
see.
understanding.
I see. So that helps make it clearer for me in terms of some of the goals that we have. Now, in this framework of what we visualize as perhaps a hypothesis of a 20-year time frame, when we look at the approach that we're using, that we have hired the contractors to perform, you did mention that each of the contractors would be independently implementing their own methodology to the study. I think that's important in a diverse environment like Los Angeles. We're a little bit bigger than Culver City. And I think our profile in terms of those who are doing business is a little bit more dynamic as a result of it, because more people are doing business in oil in our area. You did mention, though, however, that there would be independence in the methodology that each of them would be using. However, at the same time, it appeared to me in your presentation that there would be a collaboration between CJM and Baker and O'Brien. And I understood that the scope of the assignment for Baker and O'Brien is highest priority wells. Is that correct? They're doing the highest priority wells in our area, and CJM will be doing a portion thereof, even though a different methodology would be collaborating with them in that assignment. Is that pretty accurate?
So each of them will start with the highest priority wells, but they're planning to get to all of them eventually. So
Right.
the two are not necessarily going to work together, but they have a similar approach. Where I envision coming together would be more towards the end of, for sure, the pilot studies after there's more data that's been obtained, or at the end of the final studies. So I think the pilot study is a really good way to kind of see if there's any type of course correction that needs to be made. But that'll be a good chance to get some data feedback and understand how there would be an interaction between them. But the plan was mostly for them to work independently.
Sure. So, and they're working independently. Obviously, they're going to be using different methodologies in the work that they're going to be performing or executing. And it will, in result, give us multiple lenses, as you have said. And in this multiple lenses of work that we're going to be able to review, it will give the city the opportunity to do a comparative analysis in terms of an assessment of each of the wells, their lifespan, and how we want to move forward in planning, correct? Within that 20-year period, correct? Of that we anticipate. And have there been, Culver City seems to be, even though it's not as large as we are, have there been any lessons learned going into this study that we're getting ready to engage in? Has there been any lessons learned from Culver City that started obviously before we did, that are of note that we should know about before we engage in our very own study?
One thing Culver City had to its advantage was that it had declared oil to be a non-conforming land use in the 1960s. And so we're in the process of doing both things at the same time, doing the amortization study as well as declaring oil to be a non-conforming land use. So we're following that process in that we are making this a non-conforming land use. I don't know if someone from Baker and O'Brien would like to speak on that, but they did the work with Culver City. And the goal is, of course, to apply the lessons learned as they do their approach for the city of Los Angeles. I believe we have Don as well as Charles, who might want to speak on some of the lessons learned. I don't know if you're comfortable.
Yeah, that's important.
Some participants do raise their hands.
Yeah, when we look at a study and we look at the area that is being studied, which is much larger, much more data, much more different dynamics past that, I think you all have referenced Culver City really indirectly as a pilot study to the study that we're doing. I don't know if that's been your intentions, but in your presentation before this board, you all have referenced Culver City in a way that suggests to me that this study is a preamble to what it is that we're doing. So I am then therefore concerned about what findings we got from the Culver City study that might be informative, that might inform our study. City, not to say that that's what we're going to discover from LA. We're very well aware that there's more data and more dynamics here, but I do want to know what it was that might be of note.
Great. I'm not sure if people can unmute themselves. I see the 3 participants raise their hands. I don't know if TJ has to unmute them or.
Yes, TJ, would you allow one of the contractors to be able to speak?
I wonder if I can. If I got powers to share things. Oh, I can't. I'm going to ask people to unmute. Okay. Let's see if I'm doing.
Who do you need? Who is the adequate person to answer that question, Erica?
Let's see. I don't know if I can. Oh.
Is it Charles Kemp?
Yeah, Charles Kemp would be helpful. I think Charles Kemp is gone.
Very good. Mr. Kemp, if you'd please press *9 to unmute.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Again, good morning, commissioners and President Garcia. This is Charles Kemp with Baker and O'Brien. Unfortunately, we can't speak much about the City of Culver City work. What we can share is our publicly available report, which is online. But I can confirm that the methodology that we used in Culver City was adapted actually from our previous work with the City of Goleta. And so the whole process of amortization is it's a income method using the time value of money, and the inputs are the original cost of the wells, the operating cost of the wells, and the production, the revenues coming from the wells, and those are in very large spreadsheet calculations for every year of the operation of the wells, and ultimately to define when the revenue amortizes with the cost of both the original cost of the wells and the operating cost of the wells, and providing a return of investment and return on the investment. And so all of this is available on those 2 publicly available reports. So what we have learned and what we are able to bring to the City of LA is our methodology and the many decades of work that we've done in California for municipalities using income methods and using our financial tools to assist municipalities in decisions like this.
Okay, so I want to thank you, Erica, and I want to thank all of those who came to present today in terms of the work that they're proposing to do for the City of Los Angeles, realizing that our environment is a little bit different in some ways than Culver City. Perhaps I would suggest that it might be a little more dynamic, that we may discover something a little deeper in terms of the various issues that occur in the Los Angeles basin area. You did mention additionally the impact of the operation of the wells as it relates to the various sections and geographic areas of, for example, Los Angeles. The 15th district you mentioned disproportionately has more of the drilling going on there, and we know the socioeconomic area there. I don't know to what degree we will delve into those issues in the study that our prime contractors here will be doing, but what I do know is that as a result of the findings that we get from them, we will, the city I'm talking about, Erica, you in particular, will be able to advise us in terms of how we move forward for some of those equity issues that you have mentioned. So I do agree that the multiple lenses, as opposed to the Culver City area, which is a smaller area, therefore they probably only use one methodology. I do 100% agree that the multiple lenses and the various multiple approaches from the various vendors is necessary for us to comprehensively prepare a study that will reflect the reality of what's going on in Los Angeles. So I thank you for this study, and we look forward to getting the findings from the methodologies and the multiple methodologies that we will approach in this study. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Commissioner Reyes.
Thank you, Erica. Pardon my voice. Thank you, Erica, for your presentation, which is always thorough. I just want to emphasize that our partnership with our community-based organizations, especially Stand LA, will help ensure that equity lens will be prioritized when it comes to really looking at the disadvantaged communities that are affected by emissions of those oil wells that we have. And then secondly, I do appreciate the fact that there are 3 entities who will be looking into this. I know that there is the potential to integrate those findings towards the end. So that will help us inform us in our decision making for the 20-year timeframe, whether it's changes in the market cost, the net present value, the fair market value, the cumulative rate of return. We have to look at all of those in such a way that will be in a methodical and mathematical process, just looking at it and saying, oh, we're gonna cap them and not do business with oil wells anymore. There has to be that fair process. And I think this process that we're undergoing right now, and which the board is going to approve, speaks about the transparency that those 3 methodologies or 3 entities will be undergoing as part of a more comprehensive see as to what we have there and what are we going to do, because that 20-year time frame is moving along quickly. So one question, Erica, is the LA County doing a similar process for non-incorporated entities, with the exception of Culver City?
So the county of Los Angeles is also doing an amortization process. They're going through an ordinance process similar to the city, and they're also going through an amortization process. So LA County actually has a budget of $1 million, and they have selected a contractor already. And they, I believe their project kicked off was in November. And those reports they're expected to get some sample reports between December and March of 2023. And they're expecting to have a amortization model between March and June of 2023, and probably final recommendations in September of 2023. So that's for LA County, but not specifically the Inglewood oil field, but they may actually they are going to have an amortization schedule for the Inglewood oil field as well. So again, I've been coordinating with the county of Los Angeles as well as the city, and there's a lot of different people looking at this issue right now statewide. And so we're talking to each other on a regular basis.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Other questions for me, and I'm gonna shut up now.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for fighting the weather and the rain and everything, for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Reyes. We're going to let you rest for a little bit. How's that? We need your voice. Thank you so much. Commissioner Corson.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Erica. Just a couple questions. The budget was $3.5 million, and this is coming in less than that. So my first question is, in terms of the RFP, are there things that we asked for or we were expecting the contractors to provide that is not being provided for, or are they meeting all of our expectations from the RFP?
It looks like people are meeting our expectations for the RFP. We left it pretty open because we wanted to see what the experts were bringing to us, knowing that there's some things we don't know. One thing that's been mentioned is a life of field study. And you heard pros and cons for it just this very morning. Some people don't want it to happen, some people do. There are questions about the royalty owners, and that is something that may come up as another need for this whole process, because we're talking about the oil operators, but there are royalty owners. Those are people who just own the oil. That's not part of this study. potentially it should be if we're looking at who is no longer going to get benefits from doing or having oil or oil royalties anymore. That is potentially something else, but that would be a separate study to this. A bit of it's going to be reviewed in some of this, but not a full-scale royalty study for all of the city. So that's one area that was briefly mentioned in the RFP. Again, there are pros and cons for doing that. Some people do not want it to happen, some people do. But that's not specifically part of this process. But that is potentially, we could use some of those funds maybe in another process to get that study done.
Got it. So that's perfect because it segues into my second question of having 3 consultants. One is for 2.2 million and the others are smaller. Was there a reason why we didn't decide to go with just one contractor and then subcontract the other work? Because I asked that because realizing that there may be other things to be added to the scope of work, 1, and 2, it's no secret, we're all short-staffed. So just in terms of, bandwidth on what city staff can manage when it comes to overseeing 3 contractors.
That did not come up as an idea. I see a point to doing that. We didn't propose that in this process, but there is some value in that. We envision it's just most of these people doing their own independent studies, and it would be up to us, the city staff, to try and make this a cohesive, I guess, what qualities we could take from each of those studies and pull that into a picture. But we didn't envision that as one overall master contract with subs working for them. We didn't have that plan in mind, but I could see the value of working through one person only. Yes, but we are where we are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Corson. I just have one quick question. All of my colleagues really asked really good questions and intriguing conversation. And mine is very basic, Erica. Is after the 36 months that we have with the database, I guess 2 questions on that is what happens after 36 months? Will we renew a contract or would we maintain it? Would it become now city property? Well, it's city property already, but will it be city property and managed now through the city? What's the plan for the 3-year? Because I don't suspect that this work in 3 years, 1 will be fully completed, but 2, well, I do expect that, but the whole entire, overall city master plan of oil wells won't be done in the next 3 years. So what happens after 36 months? And then my second question to that, is this database going to show any public interface, or is this more of an internal database, or is this something that the public will be able to see? So for example, if they're going to purchase land or develop, they'll know that there's an oil well in that area. Just kind of tell me what this dashboard is really going to be for.
Yeah, so the city attorney and I were discussing this issue of what happens at the end of 3 years, and it's a question. We might want to say, yes, we still have need for this data and we want to continue this contract. It might be that we say, oh, we got the data we needed and we're done. We're going to see what happens at the end of the time period. But there is a potential to extend that end user agreement into the future. The use of the data, it is something that can be used either internally or externally. And so that's a decision that we, the city family, can make, is who gets to view this data. And so we're going to be working with planning and seeing what their needs are, how they want to share that. And so that's something we'll be working together with the contractor and planning to decide how that's going to be used. But it has a potential to be on.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you for that. Thank you, colleagues, for all of that. Any other questions? Comment, Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think Commissioner Corson brought it up in terms of us using one vendor. I think when we look at, and I want to emphasize this, a dynamic city like Los Angeles, which is, of course, even larger than Culver City, I think as a methodology to a study like this, we do better with a triangulation, more than one methodology being implemented, kind of like a mixed use study versus just a qualitative or quantitative study. I think through triangulation, one finding checks the other. And I think that when we have these multiple lenses in terms of the approach that each of the vendors have used or the contractors have used, they may use different methodologies, but I think that when we examine the findings of each of the individual studies, that we become much more informed about our very own environment when we have multiple lenses versus a singular one. the reliability of a singular one in a dynamic environment like ours is not as great as a multiple lenses and a more mixed approach. And so the three individuals that we hire here, I think, are necessary in an environment like Los Angeles for us to get the findings that we can count as reliable. I just want to say that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davis, for that. Any other questions, colleagues? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion on the table to move item number 1 forward and forthwith?
So
I think I heard Vice President Villegas and Dr. Davis. Is that right?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
was it worked on it longer than I, so I will second whoever.
Okay, I think was it you, Commissioner Reyes, that moved? Okay, Commissioner Reyes, sorry. My apologies for that. TJ, there's a first by Commissioner Reyes and a second by Dr. Davis to move item number 1 forward and forthwith.
Very good. And we'll take a roll call vote on item number 1, starting with you, Madam President.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas,
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Corsand,
Aye.
and Commissioner Reyes.
Aye.
All ayes, and item number 1 passes.
Great, thank you very much. Erica, thank you for your time this morning. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
everyone
Thank you,
that's
Mom.
being here. Thank you, commissioners, for making your time as well and logged in on time. My apologies for not doing that, but I wanted to say thank you for being so attentive. This is important to us, Erica. Moving this forward is very important, and this work that you do is important here at the board and for the city. You are the city's petroleum administrator, so we look onto your expertise, and we look forward to all these 3 different contracts that you have and flourishing and making them come to fruition. So I hope that we continue. We will not. I hope. We will continue to support you as the board to make sure that this important work gets done efficiently to the best that we can for the city.
Right. Thank you all. Again, I really appreciate your time and making this a priority.
Great, thank you. All right, with that said, colleagues, a special meeting for December 2nd, 2022 is officially now adjourned. And if you guys can hold on a few minutes, and then we'll transition into our official regular meeting.
Yes, very good. Thank you, President Garcia. Thank you, Erica. And if you want to take perhaps a 5-minute break, and that way I can go through the participants and establish who wants to offer commentary. Is that okay?
Yes, I was actually going to recommend that. Thank you very much. It is, give me a second. It is 10:56, so why don't we just do 11:05?
Very good.
Okay, thank you.